I've been asked to share a story from my life that has been pivotal to me and kind of shaped who I have been. So I'm going to go back to my sixth grade teaching days. And I had a family that had two brothers, and both of those brothers came through my sixth grade class, one right after the other. And I got to know the family with the older brother being in my class. I got to meet the mom, the dad, and then obviously because the younger brother was around, I got to meet the younger brother as well. And the mom definitely wanted the younger brother in my class when it was time for him to enter sixth grade. So when I was teaching sixth grade, I was also the associate pastor of a church, and I kind of got the reputation as the preacher teacher. And so there were some single moms who would often request to have their sons put in my class, and that was something I kind of relished because I really liked working with these young men and kind of helping develop them because they didn't have dads in the picture. So, but this one particular family, they did have a dad. And unfortunately, when the younger brother was in my class, the dad made some poor life choices and had a very public trial, sentencing, and went to prison for a very, very long time. So during this time, the mom kept the boys out of school just because there was some embarrassment, there was some shame. And when they finally came back to school, the mom was like, hey, you know, they're kind of not knowing how to deal with this stuff. It's hard, it's a lot, because everybody knows what's going on. And so one day we were taking a math test, and the younger brother was sitting at his desk looking at his paper, and he was just kind of blank, but I could tell like he wasn't there, like he was kind of off someplace else. So all the rest of the class was taking the math test, and I thought, you know what, this is a perfect opportunity. I'm just going to pull him out in the hallway, just check in with him, see how he's doing. I said, come on out, bud, you know, leave your test on your desk, just come out in the hallway. So we step out in the hallway, I close the door, it's just him and I in the hallway. And I'm like, hey man, I noticed you were kind of like zoning out there, you know, everything okay? You know, I know you've missed some school, but are you doing okay? And he just kind of looked at me, and the kids used to call me Mr. H. And he was like, Mr. H, I don't know if I'm ever going to see my dad again. And he broke. Like, not just started crying, like started weeping. And this was a large kid. He was my size. And I didn't know what to do, so I just kind of said, hey, come here, man. So I just kind of patted him on the back, and he just embraced me and just wept on my shoulder. So I kind of held him there for a second, and I rubbed his shoulder, and I was like, hey, man, it's going to be all right. It's going to be all right. We'll talk about this a little bit later. And one of the things when I was a teacher, I always told my kids is like, you know what? If you can't conjugate a verb, I don't care so much. But as long as you leave my class a better person than when you entered my class, that's really important to me. So kind of carrying that lesson through, I talked to this young man, said, hey, go to the bathroom, wipe your face off, just, you know, nobody will know. Nobody will know. You'll be all right. Just splash some water on your eyes and kind of wipe yourself down, and you'll be all right. Come back in and do the best job you can on your test. He came back in, bombed his math test. And you know what I did? I threw it in the trash. Didn't even record it. He had missed a couple weeks of school. This is a traumatic time for his whole family and him. So I was just like, you know what? I know how to fix the grade book where all of these missing assignments and this missing math test, they're not going to count against him. So that's what I did. We're going to fast forward to 2 years later. So now he is graduating 8th grade because the school I was in was a K-8 school. He's graduating 8th grade, and as part of the end of year project, he had won an award of some sort, and he got to give a speech at 8th grade graduation. I am no longer a 6th grade teacher. I am one of the deans of the school, which is kind of like an assistant principal. And so I'm just kind of sitting off with the staff, and he gets to give this speech. So he gives this speech, you know, thanks mom for, you know, helping me out, and, you know, thank you to so-and-so and so-and-so, and I've worked really hard, and, you know, all this other stuff. And he comes to the end of the speech and he says, you know what, but the person that I have to thank the most, who has helped me the most in my educational career, is Mr. H. And it still kind of sticks with me. He said, Mr. H has helped me more than anybody else. And at this point, his mom, sitting in the bleachers, starts screaming and applauding for me. And I didn't know what to do. I got choked up. I just kind of like put my head down. And at this point, people start standing up and clapping. And this young man standing at the podium wants to thank me. So I've got to walk over to him, shake his hand, give him kind of like the bro hug, try to keep my composure, and then I go sit back down. It caught me completely off guard. I didn't know what to do. But I tell you this story not to puff myself up, but to encourage you. I took time. I took time to care about this kid. I took time to really invest in this kid. And it made a difference in his life. And he made a difference in my life. Now that was, I want to say, over 15 years ago. This kid is now pushing 30 years old, and I still have contact with him. I had dinner with him about 6 months ago. We hadn't seen each other in person in quite some time, and just caught up. And it was amazing. And we still text each other every now and again. And he texts me and calls me Pops, because he says that I was kind of like that father figure that he lost when his dad went to prison. And this was especially hard for him because, I had met his dad. This was a kind of a weird dynamic, and I bet some of you will be able to relate to this in some way, shape, or form. His dad was a very loving father, but made really bad life decisions. So he struggled with this, knowing that, my dad loves me and I love my dad, but my dad did some really bad stuff, and now I'm probably never going to see him alive again. So, man, life is interesting, isn't it? Life is really interesting. So, I say all that just to say, spend time. Take the time to invest in people, to invest in their emotions, to be trustworthy. And sometimes navigating this with them doesn't necessarily mean lying to them. Like when I had conversations with him, I would just be straight up with him. I'd be like, look, man, your life sucks right now. It absolutely sucks. And your life is now, from the point that your dad went to prison, your life is now going to be infinitely harder than the rest of the kids in this classroom. The deck is now stacked against you. And life isn't going to care. Life doesn't care that your dad went to prison, because a lot of people's dads go to prison. But what are you going to do about it? How can you make sure you don't wind up like your dad? Now, your dad did some really great things with you and your brother, but now your dad's gone and is not able to enjoy those things with you and your brother. So what are you going to do so that doesn't become you? Because maybe someday you're going to have kids. Maybe someday you're going to have a family. Are you going to break that so that your kids have their dad around for as long as they can? Take time. Just take time. It takes 5 minutes to have a special connection with somebody, to really invest in them. And if you can do that once or twice a year with somebody that's in your circle, or maybe within your organization, or maybe one of your direct reports, how are you going to be viewed as a leader? What kind of legacy are you going to leave? Yeah, you know exactly what kind. It's going to be awesome. So, being able to navigate people well. I did a video on how to navigate emotionally charged situations. I talked about navigating their personalities, their cultural differences, their mindsets. But just being able to navigate and just listen. One thing I've never done is I've never blown smoke up people's noses. I never want to do that. I'm always straight up with people. And like I was with that student, I was like, look, your life sucks right now and it's going to suck. And you're going to have some really hard life challenges because of the decisions your dad made. The only thing you can do, and the best thing that you can do, is make sure it stops with you. Make sure it doesn't go any further than you. And you can be the one to really change your family's trajectory. And I am happy to report he has. He's done a great job. He does have a family of his own. He's doing well for himself. So I'm really proud of him. And yeah, maybe I'll have to go give him a phone call or something now after I'm done recording this. So I tell you that story so you learn a little bit more about me, one of the pivotal events, or I guess period of time in my life that really shaped who I was. And that taught me that spending the time to invest, maybe not even invest, but just listen, is sometimes all somebody needs from you. They don't need you to say anything. They just need you to be present and listen. So take that, and I hope you make it a great whatever day it is that you're watching this.